In 1965, a thin, yellowed map slipped into the world like a whisper and shook history to its bones. It appeared quietly, almost politely, tucked inside a scholarly book from Yale University. At first glance, it looked unremarkable. Rough coastlines, faded ink, Latin labels. But one word made historians freeze mid-page. Vinland. A land west of Greenland. A land the Vikings spoke of in sagas. And a land no medieval map was ever supposed to show. If the map was real, it meant Europeans had charted North America nearly 500 years before Columbus. And if it was fake, then it was one of the boldest forgeries ever slipped past the world's sharpest minds. The map's surface told a convincing story. Wormholes, age-darkened parchment, ink lines that wavered like a tired medieval hand. Scholars leaned closer, hearts racing, imagining Norse ships cutting through cold Atlantic fog, long before Renaissance explorers dared to dream that far west. But doubt crept in, quiet at first, then louder. Scientists ran tests, chemists examined the ink. Under powerful microscopes, something unsettling appeared. Traces of modern titanium dioxide, a pigment unknown to medieval scribes. The room temperature shifted, history held its breath, defenders pushed back. They argued contamination, later repairs, environmental quirks. New tests complicated the story further, dating the parchment itself to the 1400s. Old enough to be authentic, but not old enough to settle the question. And so the debate hardened into camps. On one side stood historians, clinging to the romance of discovery, the possibility that knowledge travelled farther than we ever imagined. On the other stood scientists, armed with data, warning that belief without proof is how myths are born. Decades passed, new technologies emerged, more tests were run. Each promised clarity and delivered only sharper uncertainty. The map refused to confess. But then slowly, the emotional centre of the story shifted. Because by now, we know the Vikings reached North America. Lansaw Meadows sits quietly in Newfoundland, its sod walls undeniable. The map no longer needs to be real for the Viking story to be true. And that leaves us with a final uncomfortable question. Why did we want the map to be authentic so badly? Maybe because it reminds us that history isn't just a record of facts. It's a mirror of our longing, our hunger to touch the past, our hope that somewhere in faded ink and fragile parchment, the world once knew more than we gave it credit for. The Vinland map may never give us a final answer, but it gave us something else instead, a lesson in humility, curiosity, and the fragile line between evidence and belief. If this story sparked your curiosity, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment below with your thoughts. It helps the channel grow, and I'd love to hear what you believe.